Hey, this is Chuck Marone. I'm in Celebration, Florida, a new urbanist community outside of Orlando. In an earlier video, I talked about sense of place. I talked about how walls bounding a place create a sense of place. You get the walls too far apart, you get unbounded, you don't feel comfortable. I want to talk today a little bit about symmetry. I'm going to admit something here that I don't think I've ever admitted. And that is that I have kind of I'm going to say OCD kind of tendency when it comes to symmetry. I set things on my desk in a symmetrical way. I line up my computer monitor in a symmetrical way. And when I stack books on a shelf, I will put them in a way where the symmetry is kind of expressed. I used to think that I was a little bit odd, a little bit weird. And then I started to read some of the work of people who have studied this and looked at, in a sense, how the human mind, how the human brain expresses itself when it comes to things like symmetry. When we look at a house, when the house has an opening in front, when it has doors, windows in front, when it faces you, it creates this kind of expression like a face. You look at my face has symmetry, two eyes, my nose is symmetrical, my mouth is symmetrical. Not perfectly symmetrical, I'm not a model. But I mean, that's kind of funny in itself, because what we do prize amongst the, quote unquote beautiful is often their symmetry. It's one of those things that when you see it, it pops. And we don't often know or understand why, but people who we deem collectively as a society as beautiful generally have great symmetry. It comes down to that. Well, houses, buildings, when they have symmetry, kind of mimic a human face. There's an opening, there are windows, there are eyes in a sense. And it's not perfectly a face, right? But it has features that we recognize, that we're comfortable with, that we know, and that our mind kind of passively, passively feels comfortable with. It doesn't create a sense of, in a sense, agitation among us. I'm going to tell you some of the most depressing work I've ever seen was done with victims of traumatic brain injuries. They took out people who were on the autistic scale, people who had traumatic brain injuries, and they showed them images of buildings, of houses, of homes, of neighborhoods. And they had done this with people who do not have traumatic brain injuries. And what they said is that when a person with a typical brain looks at a house with the door in the front and the windows, they will tend to look at the door. They will tend to look at the front windows. They will tend to look at it as if it's a face. And in fact, when they have people look at faces, they do the same thing. They'll look in the middle of the face. People with traumatic brain injuries, some people, I'm not trying to make a universal expression here, but some people with traumatic brain injuries and some people with that go high on the autistic spectrum, when they look at a person's face, they will look away. They will look at a different spot. They will not look them straight in the eyes or in the middle of the face. When they look at a house, a traditional house that has great symmetry to it, that kind of has those kind of passive facial features, those facial dimensions, they will not look at the house. They will actually look away. They'll look at the foundation. They'll look aside of it. They won't look straight at it. I say depressing because it made me realize and wrestle with the idea that, when I walk down a street like this, a beautiful street that's been designed by new urbanists with great symmetry, a lot of attention to detail, homes that have that kind of passive, comfortable feel of being human face-like, having those kind of dimensions so that it feels very comfortable. I feel myself very comfortable in those spaces. But there would be people in our society today who would not. There would be people in our society today who would actually feel like, oh my gosh, all these faces are looking at me. I'm not comfortable in this space. I've not quite figured out what to do with that insight. But I wanted to share it with you because I do find these places to be delightful. I realize that they are not for everyone in a sense, but I do think that the broad, what the new urbanists have done is they have captured what it was about traditional cities that made them work, that made them comfortable, that in a sense had evolved out of the human condition of city building. And they have brought that back and recreated it. In a future video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges that the new urbanists face, because I think they are many and they are acute, and I like them a lot. I'm one of them, so I want to talk a little bit about it.